Election expenditure monitoring. Key points for the candidates. Disclaimer. This training material is for use in training of election officials. It should not be referred as guideline of ECI. In case of any variance in this training material, the Commission guidelines, rules, law shall prevail. Election expenditure can be classified into two types: legal expenditure and illegal expenditure. Legal expenditure are permissible under the law, such as expenditure in public meetings, posters, banners, vehicles, etc. They should be within the limit. Illegal expenditure such as distribution of money, gifts, liquor, or any other item among electors with the purpose of influencing them. We should stop such illegal expenditure. Various types of expenditure under the legal category and illegal category are shown on the screen. What is the ceiling of expenditure? For the parliamentary constituencies, the states having the limit of 70 lakh, now it is raised to 95 lakhs. And for the states having the limit of 54 lakhs, has been raised to 75 lakhs. Similarly, for the assembly constituencies, the limit is 40 lakh and 28 lakh. Legal provisions. Now we will see various legal provisions which are important in election expenditure monitoring. First, we will see the sections under the RP Act 1951. Section 10A. It is about disqualification for failure to lodge account of election expenses. 3 years from the date of order. Section 77(1). Account of election expenses and maximum thereof. Section 77(1). Explanation 1. Expenditure incurred by the leaders of political parties. Section 77(1). Explanation 2. It is about leaders of political parties, that is, star campaigners. Section 78. Lodging of account with the district election officer within 30 days from the date of declaration of result. Section 123 is about corrupt practices in the election. Section 127A. Restriction on the printing of pamphlet, poster, handbills, etc. Now we will see Conduct of Election Rules of 1961. Rule 86 is about particulars of account of election expenses. Rule 87, notice by the district election officer for inspection of accounts. Rule 88, inspection of account and the obtaining of copies thereof. Rule 89, report by the district election officer as to lodging of the account of election expenses and the decision of the election commission thereon. Rule 90, maximum election expenses. Now we will see the provisions under the Indian Penal Code 1860. Section 171B, it is about bribery. Section 171C, undue influence at an election. Section 171E, punishment for bribery. Section 171F, punishment for undue influence or the personation at an election. Section 171H, illegal payments in connection with an election. Section 171I, failure to keep election accounts. Expenditure monitoring mechanism. Separate bank account for the candidate. Separate bank accounts to be opened by each candidate for election expenditure anytime at least 1 day before the date on which the candidate intends to file his nomination papers. The bank account can be opened anywhere in the state. The accounts can be opened in any of the banks, including cooperative banks or in the post offices. It can be opened in joint name of the candidate and election agent. This bank account cannot be opened jointly by the candidate with the spouse or other relatives if they are not the election agents of the candidate. At the time of filing of nomination, the candidate will communicate with account number of this bank account to the returning officer in writing. All the election expenses of the candidate should be met from this bank account. If the separate bank account is not opened before nomination for election expenses, or any amount is spent without depositing the same in the said bank account, it will be treated that the candidate has not maintained the account in the manner prescribed. Candidate can have a separate agent for election expenses to incur all expenses by the account paycheck if payment to a single party during the election process exceeds Rs 10,000. To submit the copy of the bank account along with the expenditure statements after 30 days of declaration of the result. Information from banks. Any transactions from accounts of candidates over 1 lakh. Use of bank accounts for multiple transactions to other accounts. This information is passed on to the Income Tax Department. Maintenance of account register. The candidate has to maintain 3 registers: day-to-day account register, cash register, and bank register. In the day-to-day account of the election expenses in a register, giving the details of the expenditure incurred authorized by political party, any other political party, any other association, organization, body supporting him, any other individual supporting him. The candidate should also account for all the expenditure, including those incurred prior to the date of nomination for preparation of campaign materials, etc., which are actually used during the post-nomination period in connection with the election. Inspection of accounts of the candidate. Candidates are required to produce their accounts for inspection 3 times before the expenditure observer. The format of white register is shown on the screen. The format of cash register is shown on the screen. The format of a bank register is shown on the screen. Assistant Expenditure Observer shall maintain shadow observation register and folder of evidence. Accounting team shall prepare shadow observation register and maintaining video CDs carefully in evidence of folder. They will enter expenditure incurred by the candidate on major expenses and corresponding notified rates against each item in the shadow observation register reported by various teams and calculate the total expenditure of the event observed for each candidate. Account for election expenses when a star campaigner holds a rally. If the candidate or his election agent shares the dice with the star campaigner in the event of public rally or meeting, then the entire expenditure on that rally, other than the travel expenses of the star campaigner, shall be added to the candidate's account. Even if the candidate is not present on the dais, but the banners, posters with the name of the candidate or the photographs of the candidate are displayed at the site of the public rally, or the name of the candidate is mentioned by the star campaigner during the rally or the meeting, then also the entire expenditure in that rally or the meeting, other than the travel expenses of the star campaigner, will be added to the candidate's account of the election expenses. Even if there is more than one candidate sharing the dice or displaying banners or posters with their names in the rally or the meeting, then the expenses on such rally of the meeting should be equally divided among all the candidates and added to their accounts. Number of vehicles used for the campaign. There is no limit on number of vehicles which a candidate may use for electioneering purposes. The candidate have to furnish the detail of such vehicles and the areas in which these will be used to the returning officer or the authorized officer to get the permission. The original copy of the permit should be displayed on the windscreen of the vehicle. The candidate has to maintain expenditure incurred on the permitted vehicle in their day-to-day account register. Travel expenditure of star campaigners. The expenditure incurred by the star campaigners on accounts of their travel by air or by any other means shall be accounted as expenditure of the political party. This type of expenditure not to be accounted as expenditure of the candidate. If any attendant, including the security guard, medical attendant, or any other person, including who is not a candidate in the constituency concerned, or any other representative of the media, travels with the star campaigner, then the travel expenses shall be wholly booked to the account of the political party, provided that the said member do not play any role in the election campaign for any candidate. If any such person sharing the transport with the leaders plays any role in the election campaign for the candidate in any manner, or if any candidate travel with such leader in the vehicle, then 50% of the travel expenditure of the leader shall be apportioned to such candidate. Persons having Z plus security. The cost of propulsion of strain on one bulletproof vehicle by the person provided with Z plus security should be borne by the person concerned when it is used for non-official purposes during electioneering. In case of the visiting political functionary is a star campaigner, the expenditure will be accounted for in the party's account. If the star campaigner is a candidate, the propulsion cost of the vehicle in the constituency shall be accounted for in their election expenditure account. If the party functionary enjoying the security facility is not a star campaigner and he campaigns for the candidate, the cost of propulsion of the security vehicle used for such campaign shall be added to the candidate's account. Expenditure incurred on the construction of barricade, rostrum, etc., either made by the government agencies or by any other private agency on account of security consideration for a public rally or the meeting where a star campaigner is participating, is to be booked in the account of the candidate in whose constituency the rally meeting is taking place. If a group of candidates is present at the dais at that time, then the expenditure will be apportioned equally among those candidates. District Expenditure Monitoring Committee. This committee will be headed by the expenditure observer, district election officer, and deputy DO or officer in charge of the EMC of the district. Account reconciliation meeting. The account reconciliation meeting shall be attended by the expenditure observer, district election officer, deputy DO, or the officer in charge of the election monitoring committee, candidates or their election agents. The meeting of account reconciliation committee will be convened by the district election officer on the 26th day of the declaration of result. Candidates shall be given another opportunity to reconcile the understatement of their election expenditure, if any. Reconcile of disputed items of the election expenditure in their accounts of election expenses with the evidence gathered during election process and the notices issued by the returning officer. If no notice on the understatement had been issued to the candidate during the election process, the district election officer is to issue letter within 15 days of declaration of result to obtain reply of the candidate. Both letter and the reply to be considered in the meeting shall be informed to the Commission with the recorded views of the DEMC. The District Expenditure Monitoring Committee shall scrutinize the accounts and where the differences could not be reconciled, shall pass an order within 72 hours giving reasons and serve it on the candidate or their agent on the same day. If the candidate agrees with the DMC order, they may incorporate the same in their final accounts. If the candidate has already lodged their account prior to the meeting, they may revise the account within a period of 30 days of the declaration of result. Scrutiny of accounts. Scrutiny of accounts will be done after the receipt of the final account from the candidates. The same shall be scrutinized by the District Expenditure Monitoring Committee. If the candidate does not agree with the District Expenditure Monitoring Committee order, they may lodge their final account with the District Election Officer with the reasons for the disagreement by way of a letter to the DO. In such a case of disagreement, the District Election Officer shall, along with the scrutiny report, DMC report, all certified copies of the relevant documents, account register, notices, replies, forward to the CO for necessary action. Register of day-to-day account. The register of day-to-day account, along with the bank passbook, has to be prepared by the candidate and produced before expenditure observer or any other authorized person for inspection on notified dates. If any discrepancy is pointed out, candidate has to reconcile the difference within stipulated time. Any public can get the copy of the register after inspection on payment of ₹1 per page. Dummy candidates. If the vehicle permitted to any independent candidate or any other candidate is found carrying campaign material of some another candidate or being used for campaign for any other candidate, the vehicle permission will be withdrawn. Action under the Section 171H of IPC shall also be initiated against those dummy candidates by filing cases under that section. Increasing of expenditure in any manner without the authorization of the candidate is an offence under the Section 171H. Section 171H of IPC says, without the written permission from a candidate, incurs or authorizes expenses on public meeting or any advertisement, circular or publication, or in any other way whatsoever for the purpose of promoting or procuring of election of such candidate. If violation occurs, then punishment with fine up to ₹500. The returning officer or the observer should issue notice to the candidate in whose favor the dummy candidate was found to be operating, asking him to include the expenditure incurred by the dummy candidate into his election expenditure. They shall also give a copy of election expenditure compendium and notification of rates of items of election expenditure to each candidate. For advertisement in the local or national dailies, magazines, either in English or regional language, rates of the DAVP or DPIR shall also be communicated to the candidates. They shall issue permission letters for vehicles, public meetings, etc. promptly to the candidates as required under the law. They shall also give the expenditure register duly signed and page number to the candidates at the time of filing of nomination papers. They shall notify the dates for inspection of accounts by the expenditure observer during the campaign period and shall issue notices to the candidates to explain any discrepancy between the candidate expenditure register and the shadow observation register as advised by the expenditure observer. They shall issue notices to the defaulting candidates as suggested by the expenditure observer. They shall also ensure that after seizure is made by the FST and the SST, the FIR is filed promptly. As per the Section 77 of RP Act 1951, every candidate shall either by himself or through their election agent keeps a separate account and correct account of all the election expenditure between the date of nomination and the date of declaration of result. Candidates are required to lodge their accounts of election expenses with the district election officer within 30 days of declaration of result along with the register of election expenses. Documents required to be filed are Part 1 to Part 4 and Schedule 1 to 10 of abstract statement signed by the candidate, certified copy of bank statement, affidavit signed by the candidate, register of day-to-day account along with all the bills and vouchers in original duly signed, copies of expenditure related notices issued by the returning officer and replies to such notices, replies to discrepancies pointed out at the time of inspection. Every candidate is permitted to appoint an additional agent for assisting the candidate in various election related matters. Inspection of accounts. Returning officer shall prepare a schedule of inspection of expenditure register of each candidate by the expenditure observer or a senior officer designated by the RO in consultation with the expenditure observer for the purpose. The candidate or the election agent or through the authorized person is required to produce the register before the expenditure observer for inspection at least 3 times during the campaign period. The gap between 2 inspections should be at least 3 days. The schedule shall be given wide publicity through the press. The timing of inspection may be between 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Inspection work should be completed before 7 p.m. The inspection should be done either in the office of the RO or any other conference room or the office chamber. The last inspection should not be done before 3 days from the day of poll. After every inspection during the election process, the day-to-day election account register of a candidate shall be scanned till the date of inspection and uploaded on the DO's portal and also display photocopy on the notice board. If election expenditure register is not provided by the candidate on the inspection date, a notice shall be issued by the returning officer in writing. Candidate will be informed that if he again fails to produce the register on the inspection date, it shall be presumed that he has failed to maintain a day-to-day account of election expenditure. Candidate will be informed that maintaining a day-to-day account of election expenditure is must under the Section 77 of RP Act 1951. Section 77 says, every candidate shall keep the correct account of all expenditure in connection with the election. The notice shall be given the widest publicity and a copy shall be displayed on the notice board of the returning officer. If in spite of the notice, the candidate fails to produce the register of election expenditure for inspection, a complaint under the Section 171I of IPC shall be filed in the competent court. Section 171I of IPC says, if a candidate fails to keep the election account, then the candidate may be punished with a fine up to ₹500. Also, if the candidate does not produce the register after 3 days of serving of the notice, the permission given to the candidate for the use of vehicles during the election period should be withdrawn. The withdrawal of permission for use of vehicle shall be intimated to all the SST and the FST and displayed on the notice board. In this educational video, we have learned the key points of the election expenditure monitoring. If you have any doubt or want any clarification, then you can contact through the mail as shown on the screen. For other videos on rules and regulations, you can visit the web address as shown. Thank you.